All right. What we're going to start with is, just kind of, there's not a lot of data available or a lot of testing being done currently that you can look up for, samples of milk that are conventional, non-GMO, organic. The first one, I gotta point it there. But what we're going to go over first is high brick. Why do we want to feed dairy cattle high brick forages? Increase the quantity and quality of milk, healthier animals, more nutritious feed, lower vet bills. We've talked about that for the last day and a half here. Milk has a little bit of a different color, not a whole lot. You're also going to get creamier and a more desirable quality because of the keratin and proteins that are involved in that with the amino acids. Increased production with lower production cost. Milk composition, your solid composition of milk. Now, on here, milk is 87% water, 13% solids. Of that 13% solids, wrong button, we get 7% lactose, fat, protein, and minerals here. So you have to remember that 87.7% is water. And organic versus conventional, I put organic versus conventional only because there is very little data on non-GMO milk being tested, so these are the more common ones. Organic milk contains more heart-healthy fatty acids, more of the omega-6 and omega-3s. And this comes from Charles Benbrook at University of Washington University. The research tested over 400 samples over 18 months. Really no debate that we know that when we feed dairy cattle grass, you do improve the fatty acid profile. And again, omega-6 versus omega-3. Your ratio should be about 3.2 of omega-6 to 1 of omega-3. And as you see on commercials nowadays, they talk a lot about having a better omega-3 ratio in your diet. And cow's fat of corn and concentrate-based diet produce milk that's higher in omega-6. So next slide will show that when you keep that ratio of omega-6 to omega-3, it's healthier and it's lower in organic milk for that ratio. It's got a better ratio. A human diet containing too many omega-6 and omega-6 versus omega-3 is linked to heart disease, cancers, inflammation, and anti-immune system diseases. That has been proven over and over again. Now we're going to get more into the milk protein. Milk contains 3.3% total protein, and that's going to vary from herd to herd. You can have 3.0 up to 3.8, depending on the breed, the genetics, all kinds of things. But 3.3 is a pretty standard there. And milk proteins are synthesized in the cow, in the mammary gland especially. And 60% of the amino acids used to build the proteins are obtained from the cow's diet. There are two major categories of milk protein. That would be the casein and the whey protein. That's what comes off. So 82% of the milk protein is used in the diet, or not in the diet, but in our diet that we pull off of in the processing plant. 18% of that comes off as whey. That's actually a waste that they'll either dump back on the field or they'll actually feed it back to the cattle now. We actually have a whey per meat plant at Burnett that we use to feed it back to the dairy cattle. And it's a very good source of sugars, very high in sugar. Milk casein does affect cheese yield. Higher components of milk show a better fatty acid profile, which we've covered. And so what does that translate? If we're taking conventional milk to non-GMO or more high-brick milk, how does that translate to the processor to come back to be able to say to the dairy producer how much more can we pay you for your milk because it's more dense, it's more nutritious. Cheese calculator, what this will do, and I just use 4% fat, 3% protein. I put a couple different scenarios together. This number right here, 2.46, that's the milk protein because 82% of that is the protein. The other 18%, that's whey that's sloughed off during the cheese making process. So what we come up with is a value of 2.46 for protein value. We still have our 4% fat, and can't remember what university now came up with this formula to say for every 100 pounds of, or let me see, this would be 200 kilograms of milk, how many pounds of cheese will we get off of there? So I should have converted these to pounds, but it's 2.2 times 10.2 to get your actual pounds of cheese. So here in 200 pounds of milk, we're going to get 10 pounds of cheese, or 10 kilograms of cheese, or 100 kilograms of milk, sorry. You got 100 kilograms of milk, you get 10 kilograms. So this, if you want it in pounds, would be 220 pounds of milk, would you give you 22.4, roughly? So that's where I should have converted it to pounds, make it easier. So, but you can see, remember this 10.2. Yep, where'd I go? All right. So what I did is I left the 4% fat and I just moved up your protein level. Because with a healthier diet, we can get more protein out of these dairy cattle. 2.64 is our converted milk protein times the 0.82%. 10.46. So we gain 0.26 more kilograms of cheese. And if we convert that, go to the next one. So 0.26 kilograms of cheese, which is 0.6 pounds. So I converted it here. Dairy's processor right now, they make about $3.30 per pound of cheese. Everyone's a little bit different depending on the kind of cheese they're making. So we have to kind of remember that. So 0.6 times 330, for just 0.2 of a more protein, the processor can make $2.16 per pound of cheese that he's creating. Now, we go to 4.2% fat and 3% protein, 10.51 kilograms. Here, I left it at, or moved it up to 4.2 to 3.2, because as you increase that diet, a healthier diet, you're going to get more fat and more protein. And just to show that, actually yields 10.93 kilograms, and then 0.42 kilograms, 0.2, almost a pound more cheese, so it's a $3.04 back to the processor. That can be converted back to you as producers in the dairy industry to say, all right, if we produce better milk, you can pay us more because you're getting more cheese off that same 100 pounds of milk or 100 kilograms. So how can we achieve value-added milk? Non-GMO organic feed, higher quality forages, higher quality grains, animal comfort with our advanced barn care, and less antibiotics and pesticides, making it more nutritious, doesn't pass off on through your food. And I know, Paul, you can attest to this. The two biggest areas in quality milk, better health of the animals, still is quality feed and animal comfort, correct? Those are going to be your top two all the time. So if you can do those two, you're going to probably take care of 95% of your problems on a dairy.
And man, I want to make a point here is, you know, when we look at the bovine cattle and you look at milk production and this performance, when we talk about feed quality, we talk about hybrid. That's step one. Step two, to get to the energy, because energy is very important, isn't it? Is we got to be producing quality lipids and fatty acids and fats. And then beyond that, you got to be producing all these wonderful secondary metabolites. And When you reach that level and you feed that kind of feed to an animal, especially to a dairy cow, they are going to respond very quickly. I've had dairy producers tell me, moving from an 8 brick to like an 18 brick forage, you'll see milk production go up 20% in 2 days. The cow will respond. And so, where does all this start? In healthy soils. And so a healthy soil immune system builds all the way through the plant to the dairy animal and to the end product. And so that's why, a lot of people like Whole Foods are interested in this concept because they want to provide quality cheeses or milks that have better flavor, better storability, less yielding per pound of milk. Is that right?
Oh yeah. That's what everybody's looking for. And as you go through, all of those things, fall into place. Go ahead, Gene.
I get on farms that, they're proud of their testing protein, and they're not doing all the things that we're telling them to do. And I guess I've got testimony from two or three people that worked in cheese factories where they're taking organic milk into these cheese factories and adding it to their conventional PGH treated milk or whatever. And it's just dramatic that, the response they get. And what is that? I mean, they're saying that the numbers are not that much different on the test, but when they add this organic milk, they're getting the cheese to yield
more, yeah.
I heard you mention there at the beginning, carotene. Is there more carotene in that milk than what?
Well, and I think, and that's where those studies have to come through. When they go through some of these testings, like I showed, they were just looking at fat versus protein. And as you increase that protein, because within that protein, there's 9 essential amino acids in there. And what it could be is if they take that further, because commercial labs really can't test amino acids. You really have to go and find a special machine to do that, which we are doing through University of Green Bay right now with our manure study, because they have the machine to be able to do some of that stuff. And so what I would, and I'm not positive, and that's where more testing needs to be done on a lot of this, is the levels of those amino acids have to be higher. And that's where you're going to get some of that increase in cheese yield.
Evidently, there's some proteins that make milk yield more cheese or better cheese than what others.
Yes.
I think, Gene, when we feed this quality feed, I think it's just like the plant. We have a lot more better quality proteins and secondary metabolites developed in this milk that make it healthier and yield more. I mean, it just follows all the way through.
Yeah, and I think, as, how are the, maybe some of the GMO products that you're feeding to them are, yeah, you still get the fat and protein, but with some of those things, they could be playing, weird effects when you start processing that. So, and I'm doing some research on some of this. It was kind of, for pasteurizing the milk, if they did it a certain way, it did this. If they heated it just a little bit more, I think they call it ultra pasteurizing milk. And so they really got some weird things going on there. And it's kind of evolved over the last 5-10 years. So, so if you have any other questions, just, yeah.
Our local co-op has hard healthy cheese that they sell.
Mm-hmm.
They do it through the feed program, and they're actually feeding flaxseed, from what I understand, to herds.
Yeah.
And they take that and they keep that milk separate and sell it, make it, and it's hard and healthy.
And it's probably coming back with that feed is what the amino acid profile on the flax meal or whatever they're feeding through there.
Flax meal and
Yeah.
we also got the beef going now.
Yep.
And the pork. So.
Yep. And all of this can convert. It doesn't matter if it's a dairy or if it's a swine or if it's a beef. If you look at if you got quality forages and high dense, high brick forages, your beef cattle are going to milk more too throughout the year. More milk from that cow translate into more pounds on that calf too. So it just reverts back. You know, I was specific on the milk here, but everything can go through, and there must be something within that flax meal that they're feeding as far that, and it has to be pretty much omega-6 and omega-3 because those are the main 2 amino acids that.
They have that, and then you can work through them to do it if you want for your herd.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting to look at.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yep. So, and that just translates, as you can see, if that omega-3 is coming through the cow into the milk, you know, if you're feeding her bad stuff is going to come through too. Yep. So, and what we're talking about here is the full circle system, dairy or beef, nutrient-dense feed, fermentation, probiotics, biological treatment of manure, and cover crops. I am going to concentrate more right here on this fermentation of high-quality forages, talk about our forage enhancing product, increase the return on investment to the livestock operations, enhancing feed quality, increasing that energy and nutrition value through the pre-digestion of your forages. So when we put this on, we're actually starting to break down those fibers, so it's actually like it's been in the rumen of the cow for a while already, so that she's going to utilize more of this feed. Feed cost, biggest cost on a dairy farm. Pretty much any livestock operation, feed costs are number one. Properly preserving high quality feed help reduce cost, especially with loss of feed, with moldy feed, bad feed that you got to throw out and you don't want to feed your animals. And producers, you know, they recognize the economic significance of high quality forages and place a great deal of emphasis on production of that high quality forage throughout the year. Typical cow, everything goes through the rumen, which is a fermentation vat. That's what it is. It's a 50-gallon barrel, you know, that starts digesting that food. And so the first step is keeping that gut healthy through high quality feed. Forage enhancer, just a product that's probiotic that we put on feed to start digesting, breaking down, but it also preserves the feed, helps you with the mold, mycotoxins, things like that. Microbial, pre-digestion for high moisture feeds. Fermentation not only preserves nutrients, breaks them down, so it's already starting to pre-digest those so the animals get more out of that feed once it gets into the rumen. Improves bioavailability of minerals, creates new nutrients through the fermentation, also removes toxins from that feed. Eating live fermented foods, incredible healthy practice, directly supplies the digestive tract with live cultures. This is a sample we did on last summer on some feeds that we treated with the forage enhancer and non-treated. Same exact feed. It was in the same field, treated half the bales, the other half were untreated. So it's exactly the same mix. It's not two different fields, it's all on the same field. The thing I want to point out here is this number right here, NDF digestibility, or undigestible at 240 hours. What this shows us is the amount of feed that was not digested after 240 hours. So after 10 days, if it sat in that rumen for 10 days, this much was left over. It just can't be digested anymore. So taking the same feed with the same protein, NDF was a little bit better. You can look at their, a little bit better numbers. But this one, almost 2% of that feed 2% of it more was digested. So it's more digestible. They're utilizing more of that feed throughout. So that every pound of feed, she's getting more out of every pound of feed you're putting into her. And that's going to relate into more milk production. And also a number I thought was protein solubility. That means how much of that protein are they pulling out of that feed that they put in there. 7% higher. So she's utilizing that much more protein out of that feed. Even though these numbers up here are the same, that's that pre-digestion process. She's pulling more off of that.
Plus, you're putting a lot of metabolites in there.
Yep.
The microbes,
Yep. So, forage enhancer contains numerous groups of beneficial anaerobic microorganisms that improve the quality of the fermentation. And you can see a bag over there that's probably been sitting around since last June. And that's the same thing that I did, is I got 20 of those bags. And I got them second week of June, I think it was. All through the summer, I kept them in my car. You know how hot it gets in your car after it just sits with the windows closed, and and I actually had one in the car up until December. And when I pulled that out and I put it in the house, warmed up, and you smell it, there's no mold, there's no anything in there, and it smells just as fresh as the day it was made. So I thought that was, and they'll pass the bag around. So, and it'll also break down and reduce the complex carbohydrates so that they can utilize more of that feed. Less digestibility the hemicellulose that's less digestible, more of that gets digested and utilized throughout the digestion process. Prevent mold, increases the taste or improves the taste, and you'll see that in that bag. You can harvest higher moisture feeds. If you got a feed and you like to bale it up, or you're making baleage, and it's 60% moisture right now, and the rain is coming, you can take this stuff, put it on there, and you're going to have the same quality. You don't have to wait for Mother Nature. You can go a step ahead and put it up at a higher moisture and not be afraid of any mold or mycotoxins coming in.
We've actually treated forage that was infested with mycotoxins, and we've actually brought it back to the point where it could be fed.
Yes. We've done a couple of tests on those. I don't have any data on that. That would be our next step is
But over
more.
there, there's some information on mold and that.
Mm-hmm.
They can pick up if they want to.
Yep. We can also add fermentation minerals to that. You can get it with or without. The benefit of fermentation minerals, it's just going to increase and stimulate the beneficial anaerobic microorganisms during that fermentation process. Minerals also enhance the digestion process of the animal. So you're going to have that more bioavailability or bioavailable minerals. This is our forage fermentation program. High moisture forages, corn silage, 1/2 gallon per ton. High moisture roughage, 1 gallon. This would be like corn stalks.
Yeah.
If you want to put it on corn stalks, you can bale those up and start pre-digesting those and actually use that back as feed for beef cattle, dry cows maybe, something like that to make your feed go on, stretch it a little bit further. And then high moisture grains. So all of those can work together.
And you go back, you only need a 1/2 ounce per ton of.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yep, the minerals are all 1/2 ounce.
So we mix that right together with the culture, and most balers, like the one I use, has a tank on it. We put a little in there, put the fermentation mineral in there, fill it, and by the time it agitates enough that it comes right down through. We did somewhere over 4,000 bales this year of kind of a cover crop. What we did was we planted red clover, spring triticale with forage peat, and then we put that up at 35 to 40% moisture. And I have beef cattle, and it's just like candy to them. And they don't waste any of it. There's no waste. In fact, my beef calves have done so well this year, and the cows are so healthy, I left the calves on the cow, and they're eating half the creek feed, because I got these bales in there all the time. I got a separate area I feed them, so they always got it, and they're just doing tremendous, yeah.
Have you weighed them yet this year?
Early, but I gotta weigh some, because I gotta sell some to Gene over there.
Okay. So, go ahead.
Is that product stable in the tank?
So,
What's that?
Is that product stable in your tank on the baler?
Yeah, if you mix it up, you know, what we do is put about a third full of the fermentation mineral, and then pour in the
Right, but now you
fermentation.
can let that sit there for a couple days. And
No, it'll settle down.
It'll settle out, but I mean, product.
It'll come back in suspension.
If you get it stirred back
Yeah.
up, you can use it. It's not like you're adding water and it dies. And
No,
Okay.
No, but it will, once you put the minerals in and stir them up and go out to the field, you can bale. But if you stop for the night, go the next day, you may have to stir it up, but as you go out there, it's gonna stir up a little bit. It has a tendency to settle out a little bit. Other questions? Well, then I am going to thank you.
Thank you.
You gotta go? The restroom's down the steps and to the right.
Okay, thanks. Thank you, Gene, for coming.